You know, I have always found this one part, this one word very interesting. This one object, this one thing. It's intention. It's intent. I've always in the past have a little problem with intent and intention saying, when people say things like this wasn't my intention, that wasn't my intention, that wasn't my intent. And then I'm always get confused in the sense where like, do people sometimes harm people unintentionally or unintentionally? Do people do things intentionally or unintentionally? And I found that people actually usually goes like if things result in a good way, they'll say it was intentional, or they might say it was unintentional if they're honest. And if somehow harm another person, they will probably be like, no, that wasn't my intention or stuff. And they're probably right, it wasn't their intention. One thing with intent though is like there's intention and intent in everything we do. From the moment we talk to another person, we do a certain thing like, call someone or talk to someone, there's an intent in things. And when you want something, there's a thing you're going to do. And that usually there's an intent in it. There's intent in every living thing. There's also intent in inanimate objects. There's a reason why sunglasses exist. They're to shield your eyes. So there's intent, or I would say will, in everything, every dimensions. Yeah, intention is everywhere. The moment you have you have a conscious decision on doing something, there was an intent involved. And actions comes from intention. Your intention will lead to, where intent will lead to an action. And your intent comes from your desires for a certain thing. It could be anything like you desire to know someone, desire to feel warm, desire to have fun, desire to, enjoy yourself. There's always something that comes, in every action. And usually people hide their intentions because they are also a little ashamed of their desires maybe, or they don't want their desire to be so well known. I believe that I usually am quite direct, in my intentions. You can probably see it in my eyes. I'm quite an open book most of the time. So I could tell what other people want or what they intended in the first place, only because I believe that I know myself. I know myself quite well. And that is another thing. It's like you can read another person really well if you know yourself really well. In a sense where it's like, what would you do in certain situation, right? In certain scenarios. And if you can put yourself there and imagine why you do certain actions, right? Then you will be able to derive what their intent was and what their desire was. And you can read people really well if you know yourself well. Most of the time. There's always time where you project your intentions or project your desires, and people are just a little different. But I would say that you will not be able to imagine. You just were not honest with yourself. If you can put yourself in someone's shoes, perhaps, in their exact situation, and then you'll probably know why people do what they did. People do what they did, and you'll be able to understand and empathize with them most of the times. That's why I believe also once you are truly aware of who you are as a person, you'll be also truly aware of who people are the way they are, You'll be able to figure out why they react a certain way. You may be confused why they couldn't resolve or solve their issues, but at least you know why they do certain things or why they are the way they are, You unlock empathy once you know yourself. Like, once you really know yourself, like, in a way where not just putting excuse for yourself, when you deep down ask why you react a certain way or why you do things a certain way, and you truly ask yourself and truly were honest with yourself, and you're like very naked with yourself. You're like, yeah, I did it because I was a little selfish. I did it because I was seeking pleasure, or things like, you were straight. honest with your insecurities, right? You did it because you want to please people or things like that. And once you figure that out, you figure out why people do things the way they do things, you know? Yeah. Though there are times you may not be able to guess 100% correct on the dot, but you can probably guess majority, you know, like a good estimate of why they did things. Yeah, intention is a funny thing. You gotta ask yourself, like, you gotta be really honest with yourself and with everybody else. And once you're like that, yeah, you know things. You will know things. But one thing for sure is like, whatever you do, there's an intention, and whatever other people do, they have their own intentions. Intent exists. There's no such thing as just because, you know. Just because exists in a way where you say you're just because you're hungry, just because you're something, that works, but there's nobody who does things just because. And that is important to know. And it's also good to, you know, hide your intentions and let people guess a little bit. You don't have to be honest, like 100% bare naked, right? You can also play around with it, but it is important to know yourself quite well to the point you know why you're doing certain things. And in that way, you know a lot about how people will react because you are in their shoes before, you know, you also thought about it. And yeah, I think that's great. One thing is like, I do believe I can read people quite decently well, though I've made so many mistakes before because I've put my own desires or like, you know, my own will in their shoes. Then I was like, that will be why I do certain things and how I'll react. But then like they did it because of he or she will do it because of another reason, and I'll be like, wow, I do project myself quite a bit too. And I could say that there are times you can be wrong. Most of the time, you can never truly guess another person's inner mind. So you could also be like, you know, you could just guess it and just take it with a pinch of salt when you guess people's intention, though. Yeah.